Hey guys, welcome to Into the Depths, episode 2. This is a podcast where I, Incredible Bulk, I realized I was doing that whole thing without a push to talk. I was just talking to
I was about
everybody.
to say, I was like, I can't hear anything.
Oh, what a great start. Hi guys, welcome to Into the Depths, episode 2. This is a podcast basically about Camelot Unchained. It's an MMO that's being developed by City State Entertainment. I'm here with some of my real life friends, and I'm going to try and drag them onto the hype train by discussing some of the things that the game is going to be about. You see some familiar faces from last week, and a new one. We have I Didn't Tie My Shoes, or his real life name is Andrew. And how you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing good. Excited to be here.
Good. All right. Well, so tonight we're going to jump into Foundation Principle 4, which is aptly titled Choice Matters, which is a big thing in this game. We've kind of seen a shift in recent years to where developers don't really want choices to matter like they used to in old school MMOs. Some would say that's hardcore, and they're catering to casuals. I don't think any of you guys would disagree. Anybody?
Nope. Totally right.
Okay. All right. And a quick note. In the we have everybody's name tonight up, and their, I guess, gamer tag name, but also the roles that they most likely play in these kinds of games, just because the first episode we kind of interchangeably, and we do this when we're in voice comms playing, we call each other by our gamer tags, but we also use, because we are real life friends and have known each other for so long, we also use our real names. So if you hear someone call someone Scotty, that's going to be Moku, and so on. So anyway, we're going to talk about Foundation Principle 4. We're going to talk about character creation, and then we're going to get into stats, which are super important in this game. So, jumping right into Foundation Principle 4. Like I said, it's about choice, making choice matter again. Kind of a return to the old pen and paper style games where you could make characters with a really, really deep backstory. And so he comes out and in the first couple sentences says it. Those traditional RPGs had a plethora of background choices, and we kind of, I know there were a lot of faults with Guild Wars 2, but we kind of saw, I don't know if you guys remember, when you created a character, they had a couple questions for you that kind of that gave your character a background and some choices, and they kind of just pertain to like the story and stuff like that. They didn't really have any character defining effects, but for the most part, it was, I thought, at least a good try. Not really well executed, but what is right off the bat, what does choice matter to you guys? Why don't you go ahead, Guinea Pig?
Choice makes characters unique. I think the problem with games recently is no character you've made or dealt or built has been unique in the modern day MMOs. So it's one thing I like about it.
How about you, Moku?
I tend to prefer being overloaded with buttons and options to give more skill cap in the game. A lot of the Blizzard mindset lately has been towards dumbing down the option sets, and as well as other more modern MMOs have been going more towards the limited skill set. Ryan, you want to go ahead? I'm gonna get this to Ryan.
Yeah, go. Let's. What do you have to say about it, Moku?
Choice. I think everybody here can speak that no one spends more time on character creation than I do.
And endless hours of theory crafting that you and I do in
not only,
many games.
Yeah. I mean, aesthetically, I want my character to look, differentiated from everybody else. So that's a big deal to me. I know you said that may not be the case with so many people on the battlefield. They may dumb down the options. But if you look at any game, you look at WoW or League or all these games, they start with a skill tree that's decently complicated, and they, like you said, they've slowly been. You get 6 choices. Oh, you get 3 choices. Oh, you get 2 choices. Pick one or the other. It's like that's
and
that makes everybody
mask.
quick
Oh,
customers.
it really it's really keeping it complicated, and we're taking out the mundane choices.
Games I've had the most fun with. I mean, I don't know how many hours we spent theory crafting just Rift. One of my favorite things about Rift was the stat tree. It's like 13 different classes. You get to pick 3 classes, and you can go 51 points or 61 points into whatever. I mean, how much time did we spend on that? How much fun was that to create something unique?
Yeah.
Honestly, Rift was the one game we couldn't figure out a best build. It was like there always seems to be this cookie cutter build, but Rift was like, these are really good choices. This is good, this is good, this is good. How do I want to play my champion or my character?
Yeah, absolutely. How about you? What do you initially think of, Andrew, when you hear the phrase "choice matters"?
So choice to me is when you have 2 options that are equally good in their own scenarios, that makes you like sit there and decide between the 2. That's a choice. Like if you have one option that's like, hey, this is like the shitty talent that nobody wants to take, then you don't really have a choice. You just take the good thing. So it's one of those things where the options will have to be good, and that defines choice to me, because if you don't have good options, then you just do the same path in every game.
Yeah. So either balance everything, so you make smart choices, and we all kind of. I mean, most of us are currently playing League of Legends. I think that's a really good example of balance, especially the new stuff. For the most part, those bottom of the tier. I mean, they're not currently balanced. Yasuo is overpowered as shit, but...
No, I mean, League does an okay job of making the skills, but I mean, it's pretty obvious which skill to take. Like, if you're playing AD and you go in the offensive tree, do you want to take AP skill or do you want to take AD skill? That's not a choice. That's stupid.
And it's really hard in like a PvP game, because especially like, so I guess what Camelot Unchained is trying to do, based on what I've read, is they're trying to make choice matter at like the start of the game. They want your decisions to like flow into your character, and like what you decide at the beginning is going to be how you're supposed to play that character throughout. But like everybody knows, video games change, patches come out. Like what's overpowered this week might not be overpowered next week.
Oh, absolutely.
And so what kind of happens in like games like League or WoW, it's like, oh, if this talent gets nerfed, or if this item gets nerfed, or this one gets buffed, you can change those things. You have the ability to go back and do that. The kind of the way that Camelot Unchained is doing it is you pretty much have to re-roll depending on maybe something that's been changed, because a lot of it seems like it's hard-coded in there. So that makes it kind of difficult, because I know a lot of people, like, if you spend a bunch of time on your character and then all of a sudden you're like, mages suck, and you turn around and you're like, oh no, now I have to re-roll. That's an awful feeling,
Yeah, I get that. Absolutely. Obviously, in a persistent world and persistent characters, it's much more of an issue. However, it has been stated that there will be respecs and a way to un-gimp your character in the event that you do that. They do, however, want you to gimp your character. And on that note, the respecs will not be go to your trainer and pay 50 gold to respec anytime.
Random reference. You ever play City of Heroes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know how they did rerolls?
No.
It took days and challenging content
Yeah.
to earn a
Yeah.
reroll.
Yeah,
and actually, I really like that, because
that's-
you couldn't just flip-flop back and forth. We spent 2 to 3 days trying to beat a boss to that drops a reroll, and I actually like that, because it's kind of like you said, you're not stuck in your thing, but you can't just flip-flop to play the most
I'm
OP.
Yeah,
sure
definitely
it'll be
difficult.
I'm sure it will be something like the Dragon Raids in Dark Age, if you want rerolls.
Which Guinea Pig and maybe Moku remembers, but you other 2 guys unfortunately missed out on that greatness, and that's fine. So anyway, getting back on topic. So he goes on to say the norm is like Moku mentioned in his point, Blizzard's kind of taken a, hey, let's make the most amount of money possible and make things super casual and easy to approach, which is fine. Those are game design choices, not necessarily ones that I think belong in a in an MMO that I'm playing, which, WoW serves a purpose. I firmly believe it's become a quote-unquote gateway MMO. It'll slowly pull people in, and then they can kind of explore more hardcore things. So, and then, like Andrew said, these choices that you're going to make at character creation, they want them to matter. So is it going to define the way you play your game, or the way you play your character with whoever you're grouped with? The hope is yes.
But are they going to continue to balance those choices? So I made choices that made me this way at the beginning, and then a patch comes out, and I get balanced to being kind of a crappy spec at that point because they screwed up my choices at the beginning. So, I mean, there's problems with that too.
It's like when Escape Artist was like in WoW, the gnome skill. I remember that was a big thing. So many warriors re-rolled gnome because of the fact that they changed it to be instant, when at the time it was a really shitty like 1.5 second cast that nobody would ever use.
Scotty's a
And
traitor.
it's like,
It was just
yeah.
0.5.
Scotty's a red traitor. He changed from undead to goblin. Cop out.
They've stated that if in the event that something like that happens where it changes your character's playstyle, they will, and we saw this in Dark Age of Camelot, they will offer who's ever affected by it will get basically free respecs and the ability to either choose to say the same or save that respec until they test it out for themselves. So choice really isn't limited to just this character creation. It's going to be focused on in the game too, where when it comes to like what armor you can wear or what weapons you can use. Now that's not to say that you're going to be effective with every single weapon in the game. I doubt they're going to give mages the ability to have heavy melee attacks or, be efficient swinging a sword. Does that mean you can't swing a sword if you need to? No. But I think the more interesting aspect of it is going to come into play with no armor restrictions. So you could potentially have mages wearing heavy plate, but at the same time, you want to balance that.
So what's the penalty? I mean, how's that work? If mage trains enough strength, he can wear it, or does he get a penalty against magic by wearing it?
Basically the way items are going to work are they're going to be stat linked. You're going to progress your stats. We'll get to this later. There's two kinds of stats: main stats and secondary stats. Main stats are the ones that are going to be
derived stats.
Yes. You're right. There are derived stats. Anyways, things like items are going to be have stat requirements. So if you want to wear heavy armor, you're going to need a lot of strength, which a mage can do that, and he's going to get strength by wearing heavier armor, because this is a learn by doing situation. As far as drawbacks go to wearing heavy armor, there's I think the Flame Warden has, if you look at that on the class list, one of their banes is if they wear anything other like heavier than light armor, they inflict damage on themselves. The example that in this foundation principle is a mage that's wearing heavy armor that is using lightning. So lightning, not necessarily, heavy armor is usually metal. Lightning's not necessarily friendly to metals, so there could be a drawback there. However, they've stated multiple times that there will be situations where it's worth it to sacrifice, I guess, self-damage versus protection. Are we
talking about stats later, you said?
Yes, we'll get into stats. My question to you now is, what do you think about anybody being able to wear any armor or use any weapon? Not necessarily any weapon effectively, but equip any weapon.
I'm okay with it. I don't know. I need to get into how stats work to really give you an answer.
Okay.
I mean,
Anybody
if they
else? Initial impressions?
If they do it right, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to allow that. I mean, Skyrim does the same thing where you could throw your heavy plate on your rogue. You're just gonna be a shitty rogue, if you do that.
Then what's the point? If you throw a heavy plate on a rogue and he becomes a crappy rogue, what's the point of allowing you to wear everything?
I mean, if they do it right,
Survivability.
yeah, exactly. It could be like a dynamic kind of a
there's an
thing.
obvious trade-off there as you don't take as much damage, but
Yeah.
you got
I
anything,
mean,
Moku?
if they specifically put things in the game where if you're not wearing a certain type of armor and you're this class, you gain, I guess, negatives against your character, then you're gonna probably just wear the armor that you're supposed to wear.
There's some other games. There's ways to make it where it's not worth wearing in the first place. So it could be a game gimmick. It could be totally a waste of time. I need more data.
Okay.
Yeah, without having to know the other stats, how the armor affects certain abilities and things, it's hard to judge. Because if I'm a healer, I'm not using lightning or fire. Why would I not wear heavy armor?
I mean, I definitely think
Maybe
that it
slower?
can be done.
Yeah.
It just depends on how they go about implementing
Well,
it.
I mean, we saw you balanced it in old pen and paper games by adding a spell failure chance, right? If it, you could go down that path to where it increases.
On metal, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, we don't have that data. Without
Metal,
what it
stealth
affects,
chance,
it's hard to say.
agility over armor class. Stuff like that.
Okay, well, so that's pretty much the foundation principle for it. He gives a couple examples. I mean, ultimately they want to prioritize stuff that is not necessarily prioritized anymore, and get rid of the focus on, hey, I want my character to look good, and I don't really care. It's the same background-wise as everybody else, and so let's get into character creation. We'll start off with the obvious thing, races. We got plenty of them. Every realm has different races. I believe there are 5 races each per realm, so we're getting 15 different races, five per realm. At launch, one race will be a giant race, physically. So, if you want to block spell projectiles, probably good.
Ryan told me I couldn't be the Arthurians because apparently I picked the alliance in every game without knowing it.
Wait, the
Lame.
chi.
Lame.
I'm like, I want to be this golem guy.
Andrew wants to
On a
play
side
He-Man.
note, I don't like being up next to them. I have so much Alp hatred. I can't even be next to them on the stream. I don't know why I'm in that top right corner, but okay.
Well, we are diehard Hibs, Guinea Pig and I. But just to run down the races, you have the Arthurians, they have the Katshi. Pausing just a second. No, I don't think any of us really care about lore.
Scotty
Anybody?
does.
Okay. All right. Well, if you guys are interested, the races in this game are, for the most part, have super lore. The lore goes deep with them. They're pulled from basically the Arthurian legends and Nordic and Celtic and stuff like that. You have the Katshi cat race, which Andrew would probably like to play. And then you have gargoyles. You got the humans.
Andrew a furry?
What's up?
I guess apparently.
I was like, furries. Andrew loves furries.
Yeah. Then you have the Storm Riders. Then you have I think you say it's Sturm. They're like kind of vampire. They have butt wings. That's all I know. And then the Golems,
Weird Irish game.
which are the large giant race for the Arthurians. Then going to the Tuatha, you have an actual race named after the realm, the Tuatha De Danann, which personally is one of my favorites. They look very much like Ganondorf, in my opinion, from the Legend of Zelda series.
Isn't that the submarine in
I don't
Full
believe
Metal
you.
Panic? Random question.
The what?
Isn't that the submarine in Full Metal Panic? Throughout the Dodon.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not an anime nerd. Sorry, guys. Then you have the Silver
Sounds
Hands, the Hamadryads, and Muku's favorite race, the Lucrepan, the little wolf, the little wolf mini people.
Fucking penis fingers.
The Banshee, which are kind of a spectral race, which with the ability to detach their heads, and the Furbog. And then the Vikings, which most people consider to have some of the coolest races. You have
Really?
these-
Because they're all human looking. Like, there's no
I mean,
unique ones in the
is-
Vikings.
Is
The-
Banshee just a play on Banshee because they look like banshees?
Yeah. Well, that's
Okay.
so that's the from my understanding that's the Irish knowledge or the Irish spelling of Banshee.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And you see that with like the dwarves from the Viking, which are pronounced Dorgar. Every time I say it, I just want to go Steve Martin from the Pink Panther and go Burger. But then you have the Berserkers, who don't have a lot of concept art yet. The Valkyrie, the Vikings, and the Jotnar. And the Pict, I believe, were confirmed as another human race for the Arthurians in last week's. A couple, either last week's or the week before's newsletter. Any of the races jump out at you guys? Muku, you still hate? I know you hate the Lucrepons, even though they're tricky.
Who's the little race of the Vikings? The Divergar?
The dwarves. I'm assuming since they're dwarves and small.
Yeah,
There
I mean,
hasn't been a
dwarves.
little race
The
for the Arthurians.
the Ulfhednars look just bananas awesome.
Oh, everybody's gonna be those.
The Berserkers
Yeah.
do seem very, very cool. Anybody else?
Okay.
I like the little people.
You guys know me. I always like to play like weird, like untapped potential characters. So I'd probably play something like the Leprechaun guy. Nobody's
Untapped.
gonna play that shit.
Guinea Pig's love for Lurricane.
Who? Which everybody's gonna play that. Everyone's gonna be little. Calling it.
They
It's
might.
gotta
And
be-
we'll
it's gotta
so
be okay.
we'll get to this in a second, but it's gonna matter. Like size is linked to mass, and in a game with knockbacks or maybe knockbacks, that's gonna be an
Yeah,
issue.
I just read that and watched that video. That's actually really interesting. You know, I hate racials really. I don't like having to look at something I don't want to. But the fact that physically they're going to be different, we've talked about this for a long time. Like how the hell is a Tauren fighter going to lose to a gnome warrior ever?
Oh, I
You
love
should
that.
Crush
I think that's
him.
a great.
You should
Great.
crush him.
More
I actually
importantly,
agree
why
with
can't I be a
putting
Tauren
physics
rogue?
in it. No. Oh.
Because
want,
you're
like, a goal-
huge.
I just want like a golem to like punt a leprechaun guy like off the map, like Poppy ult him away from us.
But, also as a leprechaun, if you have some cool pulls in the game, like save your buddy pulls, you could be maybe pulled farther away from the bad people, which is always good for me
Yeah.
when I do stupid things.
When you guinea pig it up. Okay, so and this is where we get to the example two, kind of moving on to.
Sorry, one more comment.
Yeah, go for it.
A lot of times, the issue I see with that, which I think is really cool, is you're going to be pigeonholed into playing what size makes sense. If you're a tank, you're going to play the big guy. You want to be seen, you want to be hit. If you're a mage and you don't want to be hit, or healer, you're going to play the little guy so no one sees you. If you're a fighter, you're going to play the medium guy. It's like, is it going to pigeonhole us into the race that physically makes sense? Like, if I want to play a healer, I have to be this race.
Someone in chat saying something about wisps. Is that like a race?
It's a class, and we'll get to that in maybe next episode, but probably way later.
I see you guys.
So to your point, Muku, yes, for the most part, you're gonna. I mean, if you and they address
He's
this.
so cute. He's so little.
They address this, and I think the fighter, the heavy tank video, the class reveal. They say Ben, the one of the game designers, says because we have a projectile physics-based spell system. Yeah, being big and having a big hitbox is gonna help you get hit by those spells or block those spells in that case. But if you're maybe in a small roaming group of 4 to 5 people, and you want a little bit, you want to be able to dodge spells better, that could be potentially a reason to be a Lucrepon heavy tank. Now,
Yeah, it just seems like there's gonna be a bunch of furbolgs, golems, and whatever the other one is, and a bunch of lupercons.
Yeah.
Or again, whatever the other one is. That's it. Like, no one wants to play medium. Who wants to play medium? You either want to get
I
in
don't
or
know.
you don't.
Well,
I mean, I feel just from looking at the races that there's so many different races that I think it's going to be a pretty diverse community. Like, once you get to a certain amount of races, class combinations, since everybody can apparently be everybody, yeah, I think you're going to see all sorts of weird stuff.
Oh, you will, but those guys are bad. We're talking about the elite.
I mean, most of the
At
time,
first, nobody will know it's elite.
I think you would be
It's a big game.
surprised how many people
Oh,
choose
I'm sure.
a
I'm
human race just because that's what they identify with, and they don't like
I'm
plain monsters.
talking hyperboles. It's just that
Yeah.
something like that.
So, the next step is let's talk about Banes and Boons. We'll talk. We can use stats to segue into. So, what are Banes and Boons? Banes and Boons, kind of a return to that pen and paper thing, where you basically take some good perks, but you also have to take some bad perks, and it balances out. For instance, the one I mentioned earlier with the lightning mage. If he has a bane that makes him do self damage anytime he's wearing metal armor casting lightning spells, hopefully that's going to be able to be balanced with a pretty good bane or pretty good boon. Excuse me.
What excites me more than anything that you've explained to me so far is Banes and Boons. I want a talent calculator with Banes and Boons. If you release it to me now, I would get excited about the game. Because I could actually do something and spend hours of my time trying to balance a good character. That's what I want. That's what I want to character. That's what I want to do.
You don't like this list of like teaser stuff that's not even going to be in the game? That doesn't make you happy?
An unsearchable list of no values attached to anything. It's like, oh, but to my point, or to our point earlier about choice, reading through the boons, it's like all of this sounds really good. Now a lot of it I don't understand because I don't really understand wounds and right arms and whatever, but it does sound like a lot of really good stuff that's not just cut and dry. It's like, oh, make your heals faster.
What I like about this is if, for instance, there are certain banes that people see as not being very detrimental and they start to become widespread, so like groups of people could capitalize on the fact that everybody runs this bane. It's like just like when resto druids are super powerful in arena, all of a sudden people start making strategies to counter them.
Yeah, and so
everybody takes lightning vulnerability because there's barely any lightning in the game. Oh,
barely any lightning.
Yeah, until the lightning mages get added later, and then they're screwed. In which case, I don't know if they have confirmed that you're going to be able to change banes or boons yet. Maybe.
They said their character creation stuff.
You have something to say. You have a point, guinea pig. Sorry.
He doesn't.
You look like you were going to say something. All right. So basically, here's what banes and boons are. They're like pros and cons, basically. But and I don't know if on that list they show point values, but basically, some of the more potent ones have higher point values, and you're basically going to need to be sitting at a 0 to move on to the next step of character creation. So if you take 10 negative bane, or 10 banes worth of points, you also need to take a total of 10 boons worth of points. So you're sitting, you're balanced. You're taking
it's like a balance tree going both directions.
Well, it's kind of like a general bane would be like I don't know, like your character dies instantly when you run into this guy. Like that one would be like a super high point value assigned to it. So if you take only that bane, like your character's super jacked in that situation, but then you probably don't have to take any more banes. You can assign yourself a bunch of boons.
Yeah.
So they're probably,
like if you're going to give up the ability to use potions because you're always going to be in a group and it's a 10-point bane, then that's going to let you get, like, I don't know, 10 points of
kind of cool.
extra strength or something like that.
I'll heal you. I would take that.
Yeah, and so, but I know Moku, you got any input on the initial banes and boons?
Yeah.
It's like you woke up the cave troll.
Oh, I know. I'll have to throw a ball at him next time. Okay. Guinea pig, got anything? Banes and boons?
I don't know. I could see it going either one way or the other, where you just totally decide to, I'm a healer. I'm going to get rid of all my strength and all this other stuff and just stack my healing because it's not going to be important to me. and I'm very going to pigeonhole myself into being a healer because that's what my class is going to do.
So-
Or you're going to take the least amount of Banes and Boons to move on, because if I'm middle of the road and I have no negatives and no positives, then am I better than the person that have a crap ton of negatives and
point.
a crap ton of positives?
Well, so I mean, that goes back to the foundation principle. They want choices to matter. They also want to offer you, you know, if you want to be a generalist and
Trinity,
if
healer
you-
the healer.
I mean, I'm not saying a true generalist like Guild Wars 2. I'm talking about if you just want to take some middle of the road and keep your character middle of the road, you can. But if you want your character to be super powerful, you can take those big boons and banes and it will make your character super powerful.
I want a level 1 to be able to kill me.
So is this one of the things that can be changed past character creation? Do you have like a list of the things you can respec versus the things that
They
you
haven't
can't?
addressed specifically what you're going to be able to
Okay.
change.
Because
with
that
respect.
makes
it's
that
kind
makes
of
it
just open to interpretation. But Muku, I know you've raised concerns about some of the racials, and we saw this illustrated pretty badly in World of Warcraft with Will of the Forsaken and the undead racial.
I mean, in Warcraft, you had, if you wanted to be PvP, you had to be a certain race. You had to be a dwarf priest. Why would you not want Stone Skin or Fear Ward? I mean, if you weren't a dwarf,
Yeah.
you weren't going to win. I mean, you could, but you're obviously not going to be. You're not going to.
Well, you just set yourself back
handicapping yourself.
so much, and I mean they existed for PvE too. They were just less influential. An example being like the orc pet's ability.
Troll.
Yeah, or troll berserking, like
Troll
20%
berserk, like,
damage from a hunter pet if you're
That was the only good PvP. I think
Beastmaster
that-
spec might help, but doesn't outweigh berserking with a troll. So racials, I guess, could potentially be an issue if they're not balanced right. You know, if a Lucrepon has like an awesome racial bane for being a healer, obviously, like you said, it's going to want to make most people take that. And my response, and I think the approach that CSE is trying to take is, yeah, the Lucrepon can have that bane, but if we create an equal bane across, a couple other classes, then it's less of an issue. Now, obviously, there's going to be some races that just aren't good for certain classes. They're not going to restrict you to playing, or they're not going to restrict you from making those choices. So if you want to play a Berserker healer, even though the Berserkers are pretty much like designed for smacking things with swords and whatnot, then you're going to be able to do that. You may just have to adjust your playstyle accordingly.
But doesn't that inherently go back to I want a unique character? If you don't give anybody that can be a healer good banes or good boons to be a healer, then you're limiting people into being a certain thing again, and choices don't really. You're going, hey, you've got to be this class to be the best. So that's what I don't like about it. If you're gonna make certain races not have the ability to do the stuff that they're allowed to do, then you're not making classes unique again.
They're not necessarily making races unable to do the thing. And my response to that would be, look at Dark Age of Camelot. You could make an animist. You could make a Furbolg animist. You could make a troll bone dancer. They worked. The like class lead for animist was a Furbolg, and he like would blow people up without hesitation. What did he not have? I mean, did he have to alter his templates or offset it? With realm abilities, invested more in augmented dex to reach dex cap. Yes, but he also had other benefits. I mean, the hit points kind of don't really matter on a mage because they get killed so quickly. But there are ways to do it, and you.
I mean, you said obviously we haven't talked too much about items and gear and things like that. Are there stat caps? Like, the stats eventually cap or anything like that?
That's my
There-
question. We're not in stats yet.
There are
I know, but I needed to make my point now. I need
there
to know.
are
I did
soft
it last
there are
section.
soft caps where
Okay.
once you get to a certain point, the majority of your efficiency is going to be very, very tiny.
So that kind of brings me back to a lot of things aren't known at the beginning of a game, and so for instance, like let's say you think Golem Warriors, just as an example, are like really good because they have all this strength and everything, but then you actually roll one, and once you get to the later in the game and you get all the good PvP gear, you get everything, you start to hit these stat caps. All of a sudden, you're like, well, maybe I should have chose somebody who has high like secondary stats, that way I should have picked that race, and then I would have hit the cap still based on the gear I would have eventually got.
Yes, and so that we can I think we can transition into stats now. So with that, I think they are, first of all, as far as choosing a race and then deciding once you have a bunch of time invested in it that it's the wrong. They have I'm pretty sure in this foundation principle that we've been referencing, they state that they are expecting their players not to be casual MMO people. They expect people to look guides up. They expect the people who are going to beta test this for a year or two to write guides. Like, they expect information, and they want information and want their players to look up the information before making those choices. Now, is everyone going to do that? No. That would be... I would be willing to bet that some people are just... maybe even a majority of the people are just going to jump in. But as far as...
Me and Ryan will probably just wait like a year and then just go look at a guide, make our character then.
Well, the guides will be out day one, man.
I hate starting games after everybody else is as a lead. If I don't start day one, I'm probably not going to play.
You're starting day one, so it doesn't matter. So, getting into stats, the video that I linked you guys is just kind of a general overview. Like we said earlier, we have primary, secondary, and derived stats. Excuse me. Basically, again, they're referencing the old pen and paper. Return to pen and paper. And they want to bring back primary stats that matter. The list is basic, your basic, you have strength, dexterity, agility, vitality, and endurance. Vitality and endurance are separated. I find that interesting. You have attunement, which is the increase of the capacity for summoning power of the magic through the veil. And then you have will, which is how you control that and how good you are at controlling that. Then they have faith and resonance and eyesight. Initial thoughts on these primaries? Pretty typical.
Whatever.
Yeah, pretty
I mean,
typical.
Standard
you can say they're not typical, but they're
These
typical.
are
You can
these are
follow
all
it.
stats.
Attunement.
Yeah, it's important to
AP.
note that, so to your point, Andrew, these are all stats that you're going to be able to increase by doing things. So if you're swinging a sword, go ahead, Moku.
So,
This is fucking kindergarten. Question on
Raise our hands,
channel
man.
3.
so my question, I don't know. So I watched about half of it. I didn't finish it. You may have answered it. So caps, like, if I go really far into attunement, is there a total skill cap number I can have? Or if I play long enough, am I going to max out my strength, max out my dex, max out my attunement? Whatever my character can do, can I get max everything as long as, because you level
No.
up by doing?
No.
No, I don't think.
To that point, they have discussed skill decay. They haven't, just very briefly as a way to prevent that from happening. But at the same time, and again, we're not even going to jump into that because it's so loosely talked about.
You can't ignore my question.
I'm getting to your question
What are
right
you, a
now.
politician?
So
Skills with decay sounds
here's
brutal,
the
by
answer.
the way.
You're going to increase your stats by doing things. If you're casting spells, your will and attunement are going to go up. If you're swinging a sword, your strength, dexterity, stuff
No
like
doubt.
that's going up. You're not going to increase
answer my question.
Attunement, if you're doing something that's not linked to attunement, there are soft caps, meaning if, let's say the soft cap is 400 attunement. Once you get to 400 attunement, it's going to affect your spells 100% like effectiveness. That's a terrible
Yeah, but everybody's got
sentence.
strength. Everybody can pick up a sword. You just said it
Yeah.
yourself. So I'm a healer. I have lots of attunement. I don't know if that's the right stat, but I have tons of attunement. I also beat people with my sword a lot. Am I just as powerful with a sword as Mr. Warrior is, even though I have max attunement?
Well,
Can I
no,
have
because
max
the
strength too?
warrior, first of all, will be quote unquote trained with the sword, so he will be able to do more things with it. You will most likely only be able to
Train. I
swing
beat a
it
bunch of people. I
What
raised
if
my
I
skill.
and
what if I
do minimum
trained
damage.
what if I trained countless hours by like sticking a pencil in my keyboard to hold
Yeah,
down like my A
you
key,
will.
and then I
What if I
went to
hit?
battle?
What if I
Online,
hit
yeah.
Exactly.
until my strength is max?
That's progression. That's probably next week. But so here's the thing. If you're a healer with high strength, what is it going to get you? It's going to get you the ability to carry a lot of things. It's going to get you the ability to equip items that require a lot of strength. And it will probably, with that weapon that you equip, affect your damage at a very baseline value. It won't, however, grant you abilities to do sword attacks. You're still just going to be swinging a sword and doing minimum white, for lack of a better phrase, white damage to a target.
Okay,
Whereas
I'm
that
sorry.
warrior who has the same amount of strength of you is going to have the same weapon, but he's going to be able to manipulate that sword and attack body parts, yada yada,
All right,
and
fine,
do.
fine. I picked a bad stat. Forget strength. Let's go. Let's go to vitality or agility or dexterity. Let's go to
Okay.
something that affects me. That is good for me.
Mhm.
Dodging and movement speed. Is there a stat cap between all the stats combined, or is it to my advantage just to level up everything I can?
I, I, I don't know the answer to that, but my initial thought is they will probably have some kind of weighted values with stat gains. So if you get hit a lot, you will gain vitality at a certain percentage compared to other things. But the answer is yes. If you're constantly getting hit like Guinea Pig, he's gonna have a lot of vitality because he's always gonna be taking damage.
No, you have to
Like-
you have to live to get vitality up, and it's just
That's
gonna die.
true. Go ahead, Andrew.
So, but
Oh, I was
Because
gonna
you're
say,
not good enough healer, Ryan.
I thought that the primary stats were the only ones that would change via use, and then like the secondary stats you could never level up. It was only on character
yeah.
creation.
The secondary stats can only be changed via outside methods, buffs, debuffs, stuff like that.
Yeah, so I mean, if you only have a certain amount of primary stats, like, yeah, you should probably get all of those to maximum, or as close to
So-
maximum as possible.
so I say this all
well,
the time.
the thing
You
is, you're
can't-
not going to max out a primary stat that you don't use on a fighter. Like,
you're
But why
da-
would you have a primary
you're-
stat that you don't use? Wouldn't you want all your primary stats to be like what your character uses?
they're also not going to progress probably at the same rate. So if you're using swords, and Guinea Pig can back me up on this, the way it worked in Dark Age Camelot was, and I'm not saying this is the way it's going to work. Go ahead, Muku. I'll interject, please, if you have something to say.
So it already said that, from what I read, that all characters wouldn't use all stats. So you're not going to use summoning power and all.
Yeah.
But I come back to this a lot. You can't doubt the laziness of the gamer. If there is some way to level up a stat by doing, like getting hit, someone's going to find the easy way to do it.
Auto
And they're
walking
gonna
into a wall.
They're going to find a way to sit somewhere and boost the stat to maximum, and then you're going to be fighting these
Pencil on the
maxed
keyboard.
out bots, pretty much, that have everything maxed, and it's like infinite dexterity, agility, vitality, endurance, and they're invincible. So
Yeah,
that's the concern with skill caps.
That is a
If I-
valid concern. However,
If I want to be a super faithful guy, in my opinion, that should inhibit my ability to do something else, because that's the choice you're talking about. If I can get everything maxed, there's no choice. It's just I have to get everything maxed or I suck.
Yeah, and so I don't know if by increasing your faith you lose strength or lose something else, but I can imagine that if you are on a fighter again, let's say every class has 3 primary stats that are linked to its class. For a fighter, it's going to be strength, dexterity, and vitality. I would be willing to bet they're going to have some kind of mathematical equation to weight that stat gain to where your strength is going to be, or it could be let's say your vitality gets, because you're always getting hit, your vitality is going to be your highest stat, your strength will be second, and then your dexterity will be third, because you don't really need dexterity. I mean, you need it, but it's not that important. It's really a third of your primary stats.
But you say always being hit. If getting hit raises my hit points is not a fighter stat. That's an everybody hat. I'm going to go either find a mob or there's no mob. I'm going to go call somebody on Vikings as Thurians. We're going to go sit in the forest somewhere and get a group together and beat each other's asses and not kill each other until we all have vitality.
So you're talking about gaming the system, and that goes into how
You
they're
doubt
going.
laziness of a gamer.
I know. I trust me. I am sure people will do that. 100% people are going to try.
I'm writing up
However,
scripts as we speak.
when we get to progression and you guys watch the progression system, they actually talk about how they're going to address that with how they reward progression to you. So, Moku, you got any input over there? Primary stats and how they should go up or down?
We're talking about the details of a system we know nothing about, so it seems all kind of stupid.
He's getting more comfortable
Okay.
at his house.
Do you have any input on how you think it should be?
I mean, there's no foundational rules in place to even have this conversation. So, I mean, imagine we're talking about, I don't fucking know, Dungeons and Dragons or some fucking game. Alright, let's talk about strength. It's like, alright, if your strength does this, he does this. That's fine and good. I mean, I don't know the world we exist in to even make a reference to any of this bullshit.
Okay.
You can talk about theory.
I mean, yeah, we're pretty much theoretical at this
Discussing
point.
theory for a game you have no concept of is basically just
It's
talking out of your
it's agnostic
It's
from the game.
almost
Do you
like
agree
this
with
podcast.
stat increases by doing something without a cap? It could be
I
illegal.
really
edge.
don't like that. Yeah.
It's agnostic.
In some systems it would work, in other systems it wouldn't. I stand by that.
Pretty sure every system's shown that it fails. Everybody, they always end up with some cheating the system. Skyrim, you cheat the system. Oblivion, you cheat the system. Ultima,
To your
you cheat
point
the
about not having caps, there will be a soft cap. So once you get to an arbitrary number, I'm throwing out here, once a fighter gets to 200 strength, his strength will increase at like 25%.
I know there's caps on single stats, but it's about total stats.
Yeah, I get it. Well, so
Anyway, you don't have the answer.
no.
Okay.
That goes back to something you said earlier, where you want to kill someone as a level 1 character, right?
No, I said I don't want to be able to kill a level 1 character as a
New
healer.
question, does this game have
axe
levels?
all of my damage abilities. I would want to be a pure healer. That's it.
Well, so that's
And I'm okay nerfing myself to do that. That's what I'm saying. I would take.
You're
I
going
would
to get
take
that
the
first of
boons
all.
that make me
Second of
useless.
all, to Andrew's question, does this game have levels? It's a horizontal progression system, so no, not really. As you progress through the game, you get more options. You're given access to do more things. So now that we've been off kind of on a tangent, getting back to your original point, Andrew, as far as allocating stat points and making choices matter, it is my opinion that you're going to want to put most of those points that you get at character creation into those secondary stats to get them
No, that
where
makes
you
sense.
want them to be, or get them as close to where you want them to be.
It makes sense, but it's unintuitive. But I mean, yeah, anybody that's played any type of game like this, you kind of figure it out after a while. Like in EverQuest, you'd always do that too. You'd be like, oh, I need stamina on my mage because I'll eventually be captain in a lag because all my gear.
I mean,
That's-
we saw it in
That's
Dark
where you
Age
get
of
into
Camelot.
Scotty's point where you can't make these decisions without knowing anything about the game.
I mean, well, so like an example of it is in Dark Age of Camelot, all the main healers had they did a 3-stat system where 3 stats would progress. One would progress the most every level, the second would progress a little bit less, and the third would progress the least.
What, you picked him?
No, you couldn't pick them. They were linked. They were basically selected for you based on class. The main stat for a druid, which was a healer, was not dexterity, and your cast speed was based on dexterity. So most people dumped their character creation points into dexterity so they could not have to spend a lot of extra points on dexterity or item space on dexterity. If that makes any sense to you guys. So, secondary stats. You have presence, clarity, hearing, mass. Mass is going to be super important if we have knockbacks. Presence, it's, how you affect NPCs. Clarity reduces the panic rating, which panic is something that's really interesting. Not necessarily unique if you kind of deconstruct it, but interesting. Something that you used to find in old school games. Hearing has to do with spotting stealthers. There's also, and then that's pretty much it. Then you have the derived stats, which are your typical stats that, you get health, your stamina, your movement speed, vision detection, encumbrance, carrying capacity, panic rating. These are all stats.
Secondary stats just stats that you don't choose. They're just based on what class you pick.
No, everyone has all these stats, but
I mean, obviously, so a golem has lots of mass. The
yes.
sexy race has lots of presence.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So secondary it seems like it's just static with what race you pick.
Probably that is where you might see the most racial differences, I would guess. As far as derived stats, I think the biggest one and most interesting one to talk about is panic rating. Andrew, I don't think you ever played Warhammer, but the other four of us have. The morale bar in Warhammer sounds a lot like panic rating in this game.
I don't understand.
Do what?
It wasn't player based. It had nothing to do with you.
That's true. It was time based, right? You would just, once you got in combat and started doing damage or taking damage, you would just accumulate
the morale bar. Sorry, I thought you meant something different. Okay, what's that? That was a positive bar though.
You're right.
Yeah, it was a positive bar.
This is a bar. So this isn't confirmed or anything, but the panic bar kind of seems like an inverse morale bar, where instead of having positive morale abilities once you hit levels, bad things happen to you once your panic rating gets to like tier 1 or tier 2.
This sounds pro Zerg again. Another pro Zerg. Yay.
Yeah, that doesn't help any small group. Because eventually, any small group that goes up against someone...
I don't think it's... Again, I don't...
Fights,
that sounds horrible.
This is 100% conceptual, first of all. I don't know how it's effective or how it moves. We know that some of the character classes have abilities that affect panic rating, but
I mean,
Dark Age Zerg.
If you want to be like an anti-Zerg class, I mean, maybe there's a boon or a bane that changes how the panic bar interacts with you.
Well,
like maybe a Zerg of people creates a type of panic that your character can
This conversation's boring. I'm done. Something else. Stats, strength. I was going to talk about stats and strength. Falling asleep.
All right. Well, we're almost done. To your point, Andrew, there are some classes that thrive on panic. That take that panic and turn it into a benefit for them. They also, again, going into to Choices Matter, they want you to have the ability to create a character that maybe doesn't get panicked very easy, that has a lot of
maybe you could create like a Zerg busting character. Like your entire character is just designed to like walk in and just start wrecking like giant groups of people. That'd be like an allowing.
They're gonna have to do something.
Roll apart.
Don't let AJ fool you that that's a choice. This game has been pro Zerg. Everything I've heard so far. I'm waiting for it.
Depending on how many enemies hit.
Spoiler for you, Ryan. This game is a giant fucking... If they make it true to the Dark Age of Camelot theme, it's going to be a giant fucking Zerg fest. And there'll be the five guys like, we're the stealth army. We're really cool. We got them. No, you don't really do anything. You don't get any castles. You're wasting your fucking time. You're 8 people. You're not gonna start the 50 fucking thousand guys rolling down castles. No, look, we got the fucking relics. That's a fucking surprise.
Any game is gonna have a Zerg grind. Any game. And it doesn't matter
There's
if you
gonna
put
be Zerg.
anti-Zerg stuff in. People are still gonna group up in masses to fight, lesser people
Penalize them.
because
Penalize those bitches.
why?
You penalize them by giving the
Hardcore.
small people.
Because they have more friends than us.
No, you penalize
don't
them by
have
giving
friends.
the small people
I don't have any friends. It's not
the
fair.
ability to wipe them,
The
and then they're
game's called
penalized.
fucking Camelot.
Hey, we're
Dark
not
Age of
wiping
Camelot is this fucking Zerg game. What are we talking about?
We're talking about stats and
I just want Scott's
panic rating.
head to blow off his shoulder.
Welcome to the
you know,
fucking
just-
machine. We're playing Zerg the Gathering. I mean, what do you guys want from this? We're going to get raped.
Zerg Unchained.
Prepare your assholes.
I don't think we will, but
Group. We ain't penalized for being in a big group. That's what I want.
well, we'll see what happens, and when we get into combat and RBR objectives, we can certainly, that will be obviously a main point of discussion. Yeah, as far as stats go, you're not. We talked about items earlier. You won't be getting any stats from items. Stat gain will be only from progression. Items are going to be strictly linked to stat requirements. Yeah, that's pretty much the stats.
So everybody's eventually gonna have the same stats.
No, I don't think that's going to be the case.
Max stats across the board.
Well, what happens if they set different soft caps for different races? First of all. Second of all...
You're taking away choice now.
Taking away choice how? If
that makes sense.
if a golem can have 300 strength and a Catchi can only have 150, but has 300 dex, he can swing a weapon faster?
Yeah, but you're going back to my point of, I like the fact that classes are different, physically, and have different attributes, but you're going to force people down. A healer's going to be a Kate Sith. Tank's going to be a golem. Just you have to do it.
No.
Duct tape a key down, get a stat.
I don't think so. As long as you give them, a Catchi fighter can maybe they'll swing a two-handed weapon and do as much damage, but they do more disruption.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of iffy because
They're better at interrupts. There is a trade-off.
You could have every race that could be a fighter or whatever. Maybe like he said, maybe the Catchi, they're really good at fighting groups of people, a bunch of smaller people, versus maybe the golem's better at taking hits from another golem or something like that. It's just yeah. So I don't think that's necessarily true. You're not pigeonholing everybody. There are definitely going to be ones that are better in different situations, but I feel that's subject to change.
Yeah. So, yeah, that I think to Moku, one of the Mokus, to Moku's.
Excusing me. What the?
No.
About?
To Moku's pleasure. That pretty much wraps it up on stats and progression, and that's kind of just where the objective of these first few episodes are kind of to get a general idea of what may happen and what the game may look like before we get into.
So you want an opinion before I go for me? That's
Sure.
the illusion
I would-
of choice.
I would
There's usually
love
maybe one, maximum 2 possible fucking builds you can go for. It's all a fucking waste of time. It's just, you got this. You can go strength. You can go agility. You're Vegeta, fucking Goku. I go Super Saiyan. I don't fucking care. You really can only do so much shit with what you have the options to do though without being fucking worthless. So you got your vitality build, your strength build, maybe your int build for your weird warden. I don't fucking know. It's an illusion of choice. I appreciate having that illusion. It makes me feel a little better about the game. I'm a better player. I know this little trick. But there's 2 builds, maybe 3 if on a certain strange subclass anyways. So it's all a waste of fucking time.
I don't disagree with that statement. I believe in most cases, and when a system's designed badly, stats are can be an illusion of choice. But if you look at, we've all played pen and paper at least once or twice. You could create a gnome warrior
Scotty always ruins that too.
You could create a gnome warrior. You just have to alter your play style. You're not gonna be a gnome warrior and jump into a pack of like owlbears and expect to live. Like you may need to use some acrobatics. Like you may need to alter your play style if your stats are not cookie cutter.
I mean, I agree with Scotty. I mean, he's right, and that's why I don't care that much about stats either. But the phrase altering your play style, if it means you can successfully play a completely different way and be just as effective, that's cool. But alter your playstyle usually means you can't do what everybody else can do. You have to do something shitty and try to get the same result.
I'm a unique flower.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say shitty. I would just say different. Like
No.
If we are going to make a small man roaming group, you may not want to be a big furbog warrior. You may want to be a Lucrepon so you can dodge spells, but when you need to, get in the way of the ones you want to block.
Whatever.
I mean,
we're talking about combat. We're talking about combat.
Yeah, I think next week we're gonna jump
week?
full into the shit and.
We spent an hour on stats.
It's your fault.
I blame Moku. Anyway.
I was like, how are you going to get 3 podcasts out of this thing? It apparently takes a long time.
Don't worry, we have 10 classes 10 class trios to talk about too, so we have like at least 400 episodes. Anyway, guys, we appreciate you watching.
I hate this.
We welcome your feedback. Please feel free to tell us how you feel about Moku, or any of us. You can email us at intothedepthspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can always catch us on Tuesday nights, given any unforeseen sicknesses, which happened last Tuesday. We're sorry about that. On our Twitch stream, which is Into the Depths Podcast, or Twitch.tv / Into the Depths Podcast, or you can look us up on our YouTube channel, which is also on the Twitch page. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.